Did you know that the INDOMINUS Rex was originally called a Malosaurus? Hollywood is filled with monsters on the big and small screen, but nothing is as it seems. Famous creatures like the Blob or the Pale Man weren't the same design from concept to final cut. We want to highlight the most interesting changes these famous monsters went through. Kids these days don't even remember the old rubber suit Godzilla. It's a tragedy. The king of the monsters was a lot like Batman. Neither one could turn their head, yet they were great at hand-to-hand combat. Still, time and CGI changes all things, and this classic creature was no exception. From the recent Godzilla to its sequel, King of the Monsters, not much changed in the concept art. However, the first drop of this Titanic lizard for the reboot was totally unique. Designs gave Godzilla that classic stiff look and failed to conceive a way to illustrate his powers. The team in charge of making the updates needed to justify the aquatic aspect of this monster. He's a lizard that lives underwater, so his appearance needed to reflect that. The designers slimmed down the look and gave him more of a mobile design. This way, Godzilla can walk through the streets of San Francisco without breaking everything in sight. On top of that, the first atomic ray looked like lightning sparking out of his body. This was changed to the one that fans see in the film today, and it looks more like an eruption of nuclear energy. Pennywise is scary already, but the artist behind the look wanted to go darker. The eye makeup is a defining part of the clown look, and that stayed the entire time. What changed was the hair and the smile. Some designs gave it a more muted face with limited mobility. It's terrifying to look at because it feels more grotesque than creepy. Other models gave him broken faces that either kept his smile in a half frown or showed off his sharp teeth. There's no other way to put it, the makeup time for these looks was way too much. Not to mention it takes away from Pennywise as a tormentor. He draws people in, looking a little bit disarming, right? It's only after you get close that he cranks his horror dial to 11. The final design punctuated that effect and helped keep a creepy, methodical vibe to the horror in the movies. We're not going to talk about concept art in this entry. This is about those 3 little words that will excite a different kind of critter. Oh yeah, we're talking about Dungeons and Dragons, which is actually the original place the Mind Flayer was born. The Stranger Things Mind Flayer presents this booming, larger-than-life villain that dominates the Upside Down. He invades minds and wants to rule this new world. In that way, he's super similar to the D&D counterpart. Both of them love to flay people and control armies of drones. The Mind Flayer in Stranger Things needs to feel like the most significant threat. Enlarging the villain and making him tower over the kids makes him a bigger threat to the real world. He's more imposing that way. The tabletop version is human-sized. They'd be easier to hinder, and the look doesn't fit the lore as well. It was the right call to bolster up this famous monster. The Duffer Brothers enjoyed giving him this extreme monster makeover too, which really is all that matters. Remember Barb? Yeah, of course you do. Everyone remembers her. She's iconic. There's a lot of lore and backstory built into her disappearance that the team cut before filming. She was supposed to learn a lot more about the Demogorgon. The early concept art showed that the Demogorgons were more Xenomorph-esque. They came from one single tree in the forest and used eggs to make their monsters. Barb was going to be discovered in the Upside Down with a more graphic ending. Thank goodness they decided to tone it down a little bit. It's bad enough that we lost such a great character, but fans would have gone ballistic if they saw that gruesome ending. It's obvious why the creators changed it. For starters, it's just too much of a ripoff. There's being inspired by the source material, and then there's copying other works. On top of that, the material was just far too horrific. The show already had dark tones, but this original version is way less kid-friendly. Imagine if they had gone with this original version. It's hard to see it gaining the fandom that it's gotten. The audience would have become much more niche. We love picturing the Jurassic World designers trying to come up with the INDOMINUS Rex. Imagine a table of talented artists basically playing a game of baby creator. They just mix and match the dino DNA to come up with a look that works. For starters, the name was far more unique. Diablos Rex just sounds imposing. Plus, the slender and sharp outline gives it a more sinister outlook. It's like a wish that will never get granted. The production went with a safer name and look. They mention all this DNA that's mixed in, but all we see is T-Rex, maybe a little raptor fused with camouflage. We get promised so much during the build-up, but even in the final fight, you can barely see the stupid thing. Anyways, let's just move on from this entry before we have to grab the stress ball and think about the original Jurassic Park to calm down. There's no monster more famous than the Xenomorph. People who've never seen the movie can still pick that monster out of a lineup. The look is just that iconic. Something about it sticks in your mind and just never lets go. Since the original Xenomorph, we've got, interesting redesigns? None of these polished products compared to the original concept art for the OG Alien. Ridley Scott wanted a perfect mixture between nature and machine. The Xenomorph was a long, lean, biomechanic specimen. The facehugger was more massive and its placement on the host was more surgical. A lot of the intent remained, but the design was scaled back due to practical effects. A lot of H.R. Geiger's original drawings, though, were saved, and some of them were brought back in the sequels. It's incredible to see the way that the whole team came together to make this nightmare a reality. It just goes to show, hard work can pay off over time. Tim Burton is weird. It's an easy observation to make, but we tend to forget that nowadays. Going back to the Beetlejuice concept art is a way to remind us of how unique his mind actually is. After all, he is one of the few who drew most of his monsters and characters. The minimalistic drawings show a more slender creature. Beetlejuice looks lethargic and lacking energy. The whimsical mix of quirk and horror is totally present here. However, the overall feeling feels muted. This is not Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice, which brings up why this design changed from art to film. Keaton is an energetic actor with a lot of charisma. The tattered, tired look just wasn't working for him. Instead, fans were treated to this mystic manic with loads of personality. Everyone should be happy with the change in concept. It's a nice peek into the mind of a unique director, but it goes to show everyone can have their minds changed. Remember that next time you get notes on a project. Even Tim Burton took notes on his creatures. Everything about this trilogy is wrapped in secret and illusion, including the art design. To this day, many are unsure if the stuff online is the real thing or not. The images show Cloverfield with a whale tail, which is believable. According to lore, the original film idea involved a mutant whale that finds its way onto land. Other designs hinted at a much larger version of the subway monsters that fall off of Cloverfield. We like to refer to them as Clover's critters. The mystery just continues into the sequels. There are also reports of uncreated monsters that were going to make appearances in 10 Cloverfield Lane. It's hard to say if the production team changed the designs though, because we're not even sure if they're real. These movies are always wrapped in lots of fan theories and secrets. It's why we love them, but it also makes it hard to see the production process. Maybe later the truth will come out, and they'll show us the whale Cloverfield that everyone wants to see. Jurassic World taught us nothing. The new modern monster is all about DNA splicing. It's the hot new concept ripe for overuse, and if it feels lazy, that's because it is. Sadly, the new Predator film didn't care about all that pushback. They designed spliced predators, but it only gets worse. There were designs that they didn't even use that were tragically horrible. This is a film that included predator dogs. That was a concept that they thought would work. Imagine all of the rejected ideas. The team of designers worked on a monkey version of the Predator. And fair warning, this thing is gonna haunt your nightmares. There were so many bad decisions made in this movie. The original design is the only redeeming part of this film. At this point, it's anything goes, right? Just jump the shark. No, seriously, give us a Predator spliced with a shark, you cowards. You've already ruined the original's intent, so you might as well completely tarnish it. It's hard to conceive of a monster that only exists as other things. The Thing is right up there with the Xenomorph as the greatest of all time. It's definitely the grandest example of a Cronenberg creature that we've ever seen. However, the reboot in 2011 failed to recapture the magic. Lucky for us, the art designs were released to the public, and people saw what we lost. The movie had so much potential, and these pictures prove that. It gives a huge Dead Space vibe, which would have been perfect. It's a bummer that the final film doesn't live up to its intent. A big failure during the production was the heavy use of CGI. Practical effects in horror films help with the scares. The monsters feel more real and less imagined. The Thing is in the room with you, and the nightmarish designs feel plausible. Instead, when you use CGI, it feels like the actors are trying to get scared by a tennis ball. Face it, a lot of the human element is lost in the end product due to the computer effects. The concept art is simply a reminder of what kind of great monsters fans could have seen, but didn't. Do you love everything creepy and horrific? Well, there's plenty more where that came from. Let us know what monster videos you'd like to see next. Like the video and subscribe to The Binger to keep up to date with all of the monstrous videos that we're going to release next. Thanks for watching.